World War I ended on November 11, 1918, with the signing of the armistice by the Allies in Germany. In the first Armistice Day proclamation in 1919, President Woodrow Wilson called for the nation to remember those who had died in their country's service, and to make the day an opportunity for America to show her sympathy with peace and justice in the councils of the nation. Armistice Day became Veterans Day by an act of Congress in 1954, changing its purpose and scope. President Eisenhower called on the nation to remember the sacrifices of those who fought in all our nation's wars, to celebrate the contributions of veterans of all military service, and to rededicate ourselves to the task of promoting an enduring peace. It is Eisenhower's call that remains the threefold purpose of Veterans Day: remembering those who fought and died, celebrating all veterans, and promoting an enduring peace.
Well, my name's David Plyven, and I was a corporal in the United States Marine Corps from 1985 to 1989.
I'm Phil Dorcas. I was Captain Phil Dorcas in the U.S. Air Force from 1969 to 1975.
I'm David Cosby, and I served in the U.S. Air Force during the Vietnam era.
I'm Ed Johnson. Served in the United States Air Force from 62 to 67.
My name is John Thrash, and I go by the alias Jack. I served in the United States Army for about 28 years and retired out of the U.S. Army Reserves.
My name is John Marshall, and I served in Fort Hood and Vietnam.
I'm Melvin Ball, and I was a sergeant in the United States Marine Corps.
I'm Rod Warnicki. I retired in the United States Naval Reserve as a captain.
My name is Dale Eddy, and I joined the Marine Corps in 1961. Finished my career in the Marine Corps as a captain.
My name is Jack Robinson. I was in the Navy in World War II. It was probably the greatest thing that ever happened to me, because it not only gave me the incentive to go to college, but also furnished the funds.
I joined the Marine Corps to be in the Marine Corps band, and after boot camp, they gave me a rifle instead. Our unit was a cold weather and mountain warfare unit. First time I'd ever had a pair of skis on my feet was with a 50-pound pack on my back, and they were cross-country skis, and I was learning to ski uphill, which seemed a little backwards to me. So we did that and went up into the north of the Arctic Circle in Norway.
After my basic training, I did 2 weeks of mess duty, which is required by all, and they shipped me to Camp Pendleton, California, which I did 2 more weeks of mess duty. I was put on a ship to Korea. George Company had mess duty. I don't need to tell you, but I was in George Company. And about 2 months later, they shipped me down to a Marine Air Base in Pohang Dong, where I became a radio operator. And I stayed there until November of 1952. And they put me on a ship back to the States. Mess duty was done by alphabetical order, by the way, and so I was another mess duty on my ship on the way back.
I was on a German heavy cruiser, the Prince Eugen, for a month. We were running up and down the West Coast with submarines shooting dummy torpedoes at us, because at the end of the war, the Germans had developed a sonar system that would pick up torpedoes.
I was trained in the Navy as a carrier pilot and spent most of my time in San Diego. They had one alert, and I went out on a carrier, thought could be the start of World War III, when the Chinese were bombing the Taiwan Islands. It turned out to be kind of a show of force, and that all cooled down. I call myself a Cold War veteran because I've never seen any combat. I spent a lot of time in the reserve flying helicopters, and finally got too old and ended up on a desk job.
My mother had to have a picture of my older brother and I in uniform. She looked over and we both had 5 ribbons on our uniform. She walked up, she says, "Jack, his has got all those little stars. Why don't yours have any?" And I says, "Mother, I wasn't shot at. He was. Those are battle stars."
I was involved in medical evacuation in Central and South America. We saved a lot of people from volcanoes, earthquakes, and a lot of catastrophes, and it was really a lot of goodwill mission, and I really enjoyed doing that.
Our squadron went down to Vietnam from Okinawa in January of '65. We were compromised on this battle. The spies exposed us, and we went into like a den, really a den. This guy came out with a AK, and I saw him come out, and then I said, "Where am I? What on earth has happened?" And then I thought, well, I'll be damned, I've been shot. And then I went into immediate Lord's Prayer, but I was conscious all that time. And I think I had a bit of an out-of-body experience, looking down at myself in the cockpit. And that was such a strange feeling. I think I got hit pretty hard. I knocked my soul right out of my body, I think. That's what happened. And so I just coaxed myself back into the body. We had 17 or 18 Purple Hearts as a result of this one episode. And we had 2 pilots killed. So I'm lucky to get out.
In Southeast Asia, my group was assisting with the Operation Junction City, which was the largest parachute drop since Normandy.
In February of '69, I was sent to Vietnam and flew Cobra gunships, and was there exactly a year right after the Tet Offensive.
The Tet Offensive happened in Vietnam. We were losing lots of soldiers, so the public sentiment was turning away from any support that they had for Vietnam.
Coming back in the late '60s to the United States wasn't the most pleasant thing in the world. The world was a lot simpler in Southeast Asia. You at least knew who your friends were. In the United States, it wasn't necessarily all that way.
I was the navigator on the Flying Command Post over Vietnam. That was very difficult work emotionally, being involved in the war. It was also a very spiritual thing for me because there were moments when it brought me closer to God because I needed God.
Our commander came up to us one morning in a meeting, and he had an announcement, and he asked us if there was anybody in the group that was from Detroit. Well, there was about a half a dozen of us that raised our hands, and the commander says, "Well, I have good news and bad news." The good news is that if you're drafted from Detroit, you get an immediate discharge and you can go home. The bad news is that there are so many people that have been killed from the Detroit area that they have stopped drafting and stopped taking people from that area. That really hit me hard, and it still does today.
What Veterans Day means to me now, it's an opportunity to not only to feel proud about the service that I gave, but to really think mostly about those that who served and didn't come back. I had the honor of serving during a time period where there really was no conflict going on. And so I was never really in harm's way. And I think of all the young men and women today who put themselves out there in harm's way, and they do that voluntarily. And they do that for the love of their country.
All gave some and some gave all, you know, and that's the expression, and that pretty well sums it up. Veterans Day is becoming more of a big issue for me. I'm just proud of it now.
I always think of Veterans Day as something that we honor the people that have given their lives to keep us free. Fortunately, I was not one of those, or unfortunately, I was one of those that did not give my life for his company, but I would have done it if I had to.
Veterans Day means a lot to me, especially us old World War II vets because there are not many of us left. I will be 87 next week, and I went in at 18. So I know there are not too many still out there.
Back when I was serving in Vietnam, the soldiers weren't appreciated. We were kind of second-rate citizens. But now the tide has turned and people really recognize the sacrifice that our troops have made.
We have more and more veterans coming back from Iraq and Afghanistan, and again, we have to be careful or we're not going to say to those people, we appreciate the sacrifice you've made.
Every time there's a conflict anywhere, my heart and my thoughts go out to them, to their families, and it's very moving to me. It's something I'm glad I did in my life, and I thank God for everything He's given us in this country.
For years, I didn't get much appreciation, and it was a Veterans Day program where I really felt that somebody appreciated what I did. And I'm very thankful for Veterans Day, for the Veterans Day program, and for the thanks I'm getting now. It validated the work that I did and the dedication that I did and the risks I took. And I'm thankful to this church, and thanks to all the veterans, all the other veterans who served also.